Welcome to the Two-Ton Nerds. As always, my name is Max James. It's October 25th, 2014, and in this video, I'll be talking about Day 23 and Day 24 of the 31 Days of Fright horror movie project, Year 3. And the movies of the day is See No Evil and See No Evil 2, which I'll be mainly talking about this one, See No Evil 2. But before I get into that, I do have to say something that I have some traditional Halloween things. One being Rocky Horror. Two is watching Trick or Treat on Halloween. That's mainly just for me. And See No Evil. Because See No Evil is a good horror movie or has a nice memory attached to it, because when I seen the first See No Evil was with a bunch of friends and it was fun. And then when I watched the second one, I was still with a bunch of friends, but a few were missing, but it made up because one of the characters in the movie was named one of the friends who was missing at the time. And so it was just so fun. And there's a few more things that I'm not going to say on camera, but because I want to be left to like the friends involved just for us. So it's not on camera. But I like these movies. They're fun to watch. So I'm going to talk about the plot of these movies. Mainly I'm going to be talking about the second one, like I said. But I do have to talk about the first one in order to get to the second one. So the See No Evil 1's plot outline follows a bunch of juvenile delinquents, or whatever you want to call them, that are doing community service or something like that. And they're going to go clean up a hotel. And while they're doing so, a mass murder religious kid who's been tortured by his mom and religious night grew up to be Kane from WWE, and Jacob Goodnight, that's his character in the name. He ends up stalking and killing each of the juvenile on community service thing, whatever, and he kills them in spectacular fashion by ripping out their eyeballs and with a hook on a chain. So there's some really good kills in that first movie, and it's really fun because the second one is completely different. Because the first one, it was very violent and very kind of like I figured the first one's kind of faster paced, I do believe, and it's very like has some hyper editing moments in there, and so it's like, and that's what I liked about the first one. I mean, it was still good in terms of horror, but it's just like I liked how fast paced horror it was. And then the I don't remember who else was in the first one, but because none of them returned to the second one except for Jacob Goodnight. So that's where I'm going to kind of, and then the way the movie ended, spoiler here, the way See No Evil 1 ended was with Jacob Goodnight falling out of a window, getting stabbed in the eye, and falling to his death out a window. And several stories up out of this hotel. Now, and that's where the sequel takes place. Just like a few hours afterwards, after the cops kind of raided the hotel or whatever. They don't show that. You just assume that the cops and all that stuff kind of bombarded the hotel, and that's where See No Evil 2 kind of comes into play. Takes place in a morgue with a bunch of really cool actresses and actors in this movie. I don't recognize. There's only one actor in this movie I recognize, but I'll get into that in a minute. But takes place in the morgue, and Jacob Goodnight wakes up and starts stalking and killing everyone. And this was a very different movie from the first one, a very, very different movie, and I think because it's where the hotel was very run down and a lot of wood paneling everywhere and like carpet and very you couldn't get yourself lost in that movie because you either know what floor you're on or what, and so it's pretty easy. But this one, everything looks the same, so you're just kind of running around and you don't have no idea where you're at. It's very very similar. All the tiles on the floor, and so it's just like, oh, that's pretty cool. So it's like makes it more of a mazy kind of type thing, and that's where the fun begins in this movie, because you really never know where Jacob Goodnight's going to pop out of, and it's just, and that's mainly the plot of the movie, is just Jacob Goodnight wakes up in the morgue and he starts killing all these people who are dealing with the victims of the hotel, and they're trying to find a way out, and he just doesn't work out well for him. Now, for the acting in this movie, I thought it was really fun, because this movie combines 3 different movies from this year's list. It combines Danielle Harris, who's in the Hatchet trilogy that I talked about, Katharine Isabelle, who was in American Mary, and as well as the directors of American Mary, the Sissoko twins, and I'm starting to like them as a directing team, because I'm after watching some special features, I'm like, oh, I kind of understand their way of directing, and I kind of see that now in American Mary, and I see it in See No Evil too. Now, I do need to talk about one particular performance in this movie, Katharine Isabelle. I'm so used to seeing her performance in movies to be like kind of very serious. Like American Mary, she was very serious. She was also in Ginger Snaps. She was very serious, and then also even in what's it called, Freddy vs. Jason, she kind of had a serious tone to it. But this one, she's very spastic in comedy, and it's really kind of like, oh, well, I was expecting to see her more serious when I've seen her name attached to this movie, but completely wrong. And she was very funny in this movie, for a horror movie, because she's like, there's this one particular scene where she's out of breath and she's trying to describe how Jacob Goodnight got up, and she ended up just miming what she was doing, and it was hilarious, and it was a very funny moment. It got a bunch of laughs from all of us who was watching it. So, and Danielle Harris, she's good in this movie, and as the star of this movie, Kane, or Glenn Jacob as Jacob Goodnight, he was really good in this movie. He actually had more speaking lines, and he was very brutal. I mean, he was just tearing doors down left and right, and that's what I liked. Because if you watch like Jason and Freddy and Michael, they're very slow and methodical, and I mean, like, you really see what they're doing, because like if they run upstairs, he'll be waiting upstairs. He's preempting what they'll be doing. But Jacob Goodnight, if he knows that you're behind a door, he's just going he's not going to just wait on you to come back out. He will just use his brute strength to just tear down the door in half and let everyone know that he's there. So that's what makes it scary, because he's gunning for you. So, and there's a few new aspects to his character, like he has one eye. He uses the chain once in this movie, and which is actually I don't mind him only using it once, because that was his weapon in the first movie, and he needs to evolve. And what he did, because he was talking more, and he kind of took his anger out on one of the victims, and it was pretty cool, and kind of displayed that victim in a way, and it was pretty cool. So, and there was a nice twist at the end. There really was. I was really surprised at the twist at this end of the movie. There was a moment where I was like, oh my god, really? And then I don't want to spoil that because it's too new, but it was really good. I liked the twist really much, really bad. So, what's up next? The gore in this movie was really good. For both movies were actually pretty good, because the See No Evil 1, the gore had eyeballs getting ripped out and people getting hung from chains and getting stabbed in the eye, and I think one of them dude gets crushed by a desk or something like that. I think that's how I remember one of them getting killed. So there's a lot of good gore scenes in the first one, and then in the second one, he's just more brutal. I mean, you could feel the bone, you can hear the bone snapping and stuff like that. That's what makes it move. Even though it's not as gory as the first one, it makes it more brutal than the first one, because he's just grabbing them by the neck and choking them out, and I mean, like, you can hear the bone snapping, and so it's a nice. He's just more brutal. That's the best way. And he wears a mask in this one. It's pretty cool, and he wears a morgue apron. So his character does evolve. So he's just not like, and he also has a new weapon. I think it's kind of a machete kind of esque thing. But I like it. It's pretty cool. So overall, I like this movie. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed watching it, which I'm going to tell you why this movie was enjoyable in my classification scale. 1, being run-of-the-mill horror. 2, best watch with the group. 3, more than average horror, but adds nothing new to the horror genre. 4, helps move the horror genre forward. And 5, being a horror classic. Now, I like these movies a lot, but the best way to watch these movies is how I watched them, is with a group. These both movies are strong 2s. They are like best watch with a group. That's how I watched the first one. We took up the entire back row of the theater when we went and seen See No Evil 1. And then when the second one came out, we surprised my cousin and brought this movie out and had pizza and just wings. So it was fun. And so these movies, we put a little effort into watching them because they are fun movies to watch. And that's why these movies are best watched with a group, because they're just great movies. They're fun movies to watch. And I do have to mention there's one particular scene in the second one that is really cool. It's a gore effect. It's not your traditional neck slice. It kind of adds oh dear, I even cringed, and I like that. So if I cringe, adds a plus in my book, 110%. So that's really all I gotta say. I highly recommend these movies. Even though I have a personal attachment to these movies, but I highly recommend them. At least seen them once, because they're just fun movies to watch. So, my name is Max James, and I'm going to go geek out.